Hello and welcome to episode 7 on the Aussie podcast. Today we get to chat with Myia from Get Outside Co. I have been so excited for this episode. She's dubbed this phrase wearable art, and if you find her on social media, which I really recommend you do, you'll see why. She's moved from Canada to Australia, and the story of how her business evolved is quite beautiful. So sit down, grab a cuppa, and enjoy episode 7 on the Aussie podcast. Alrighty, welcome back to episode 7 on the Aussie podcast. Today we have the amazing Myia from Get Outside Co. coming to join us, and she's just gonna chat all things small business, her journey. How are you feeling about today?
Yeah, great. I'm feeling really good. Thanks for having me on here. I'm excited to chat and get into the community that you have created.
Yeah, for sure. I think when we were we love watching your page and the creations you make, genuinely the coolest thing ever.
Wow, thanks.
And one of the things we're like, how do you even get started into that sort of thing? So do you want to delve in and tell us a bit of your story and how Get Outside Co came to be?
It's very random, and I feel like it's not as, maybe significant's not the word, but as people would think it would be. But I used to work on the oil rigs in Canada as a medic, just to save money when I was coming out of high school, wanting to travel, wanting the quickest way to do it type thing. And my mum taught me how to knit beanies when I was 15, so I would sit on the rigs and knit beanies, and the boys would buy them for their kids or their partners back at home, and I would just sit there and knit beanies for 12 hours a day waiting for someone to get hurt. So I'd originally started with that, and then ended up meeting an Aussie boy and moving back to Australia, and couldn't work for a bit, so I was just making beanies and then doing the markets and getting my name out there just with the beanies. And then summer came, and I was like, well, this isn't going to fly year round in Australia. And I remember seeing another hat maker on TikTok, and just briefly scrolled past it and was like, oh, that's cool. And then kind of didn't think about it for a while. And then I had epiphany when I was driving one day. I was just like, oh, maybe I'll just do that. Maybe I'll see how that goes. And so I went home and did a bunch of research, which was really hard. The resources used to not be out there at all. Bought a hat block set with just my size, and bought some really cheap felts that I could find online, and just started making hats.
Honestly, it's still cool, how you kind of decided. I mean, you were just doing something for a pretty little penny, and then you have kind of evolved into this, from beanies into the creations that you make now. You described this as wearable art. And I think that is one of the most beautiful representations of what you do.
Yeah.
Is there have you had people kind of come up to that and be like, oh, I'm just kind of surprised that you have evolved into that? Were they just this is not going to last? Or
I feel like down the coast where I started in Myia, everyone was so supportive, and people were just stoked. They were like, it's so nice to see young people doing stuff in this area, and really and I've always just done 100%. And so I never really had anyone saying, what are you doing? But I probably tell myself more than others, but everyone else was so supportive and kind. It was amazing. And I think that's what gave me the ability to go as far as I did, and the opportunities that the community gave me. And that community down there is so artistic and very hippie and relaxed, and yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, imposter syndrome is so real, and you see it so many small businesses, so many people that are just trying to get themselves out there. Would you say that was one of your main challenges, or was there any other specific challenges you faced early on that kind of shaped the direction that Get Outside Co was going?
Yeah, the imposter syndrome was definitely a big one, and even sometimes I'll have a moment because I realize that my hats are expensive, and then I'm like justifying what I would see their value as, and why are people buying this from me? Like I'm just making a hat and this sort of thing. But that's definitely gone down less since the last couple of years, but it used to be when I was starting. I was like, what am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm just winging it. But yeah, all the support of the community helped me through that. Another big challenge was even finding the materials and the things you need to make hat making and just the resources to learn if you're doing it right. They weren't really out there, and all the other hatters I found in Australia are quite secretive. Like I had a few hatters that I'd looked up to when I first started, and I'd followed their page. I was like, oh, their stuff's beautiful. Like one day I'd love to like have my stuff, and they'd blocked me straight away. And I was
No
like, what is
kidding.
going on? I was like, what is going on? But then there's a small group that all on Australia and New Zealand hatters that have this beautiful like group chat where everyone's really supportive and stuff. But there's definitely a few out there, and then I felt really weird, like I was doing something
Mm,
wrong almost trying to get information and learn. It feels like, I don't know, people were thinking you were copying them, or
mm,
yeah, it was a bit of a weird sort of thing that I went through when I first started, just trying to seek those resources. I ended up finding there's this guy called Hats by Grizz on YouTube. He's like this really cool old American bloke who does it like rough hat making, and
mm,
it's so cool. But teaches you sort of the trick of the trade, and I ended up just doing trial and error and wrecking a
mm.
couple things, and
Yeah. Well, like, so gatekeeping, so like it's kind
yeah,
of that whole idea of
yeah,
like gatekeeping, it's my work versus
yeah.
yours, and we're always in competition. Have you have you felt that by not gatekeeping your art, I guess, do you feel like you've been able to grow in like that sort of relationship with other
Mhm.
hatters in the community?
Yeah, definitely. And like everyone, at the end of the day, yeah, we all make hats, but everyone, because it's such an artistic way to make hats, they're so different. Like everyone's got their different sort of customer base that they're going to. Like someone makes like more punk, sort of gothy style
Mm,
hats, and then other people make hats for like rock and roll artists. And
yeah.
one guy's like he's so super cool at Bondi, Bam Bam. He makes like pretty simple hats, but he does insane embroidery. So he's like an embroidery artist, and just that's
Yeah.
his like statement piece. And so it's like everyone's so different, and um, once you get like your confidence in who you are as yourself, and then you feel like obviously I went through stages where I was like, oh, I don't want to tell people about like, how to
Mm,
make hats because then what if like everyone starts making hats, especially with all the autistic people down the coast. But then I was like, you know what, like there's millions of heads in the world,
yeah.
and another way to even branch out as a business is for me to offer workshops, and I actually love teaching people. Like it's quite a
Yeah.
nice thing to do, and people feel, and not many people want to do it as a career or a living. Like they, it's a lot of work to do that, and not much reward. So not many
Yeah.
people are looking to do it as that. They just want to be able to build something and say they did it and have that educational fun and that sort of thing. So I've opened up to that completely, and no one's become a hatter that I've taught. So I'm like, oh, it's just yeah, it's something you kind of have to go through. I think with your ego a bit
Mm.
as you begin, but then once you're through that, it just like feels a lot more lighter and like happier when you're teaching people and stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, at the end of the day, like your business is your baby. Like, I feel like everyone's gonna go through that kind of like, oh, like
Yeah,
I just don't want to like give too much because otherwise, do I lose some of it?
yeah,
But I think it is like quite beautiful that like you've been able to welcome people in that space, and not everyone is going to be naturally gifted at creating hats, right? And that is why you are in what you do, and this is why
yeah.
I'm in what I do. So like it's beautiful, but it doesn't mean naturally everyone is.
And maybe even someone, you'll teach someone how to make hats, and that'll open them up to something in the artistic realm, like a different textile that they can
Mm,
succeed at and stuff. Like it's just giving people the opportunity, and yeah, gatekeeping's crap. So
yeah. And the thing is, like, feel like as like human beings, like we're so creative. I feel like I hate when people be like, "Oh, but I'm just not creative." I'm like, you absolutely are. You just don't want to be open up to the like possibility of it.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just like,
What to do with I was listening to this Brene Brown lady. She's like a therapist, and she was talking about how in order to be creative you have to be vulnerable. And like a lot of
mm,
people don't want to be because they're like, oh, this isn't nice. I don't want to show people, or I don't want to do that because I'm not going to be good at it. But like it's so good to just do it and be creative.
yeah, 100%. And just like jumping in the deep end and just being like, well, I mean, for you more so, like, I mean, if I did a pretty little painting, like, that's me putting my heart out there. But like, for you, you're putting it out for everyone. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, it does get vulnerable sometimes. Yeah, even just like the videos you post and you're like, oh, I don't really look that good in that and stuff, and having to
Mm,
get over that as well. I'm like, no one cares. Like, they're
yeah.
just wanting to see you make hats. So,
Yeah, literally.
yeah.
You have a big like focus on like sustainable materials and like have a real passion for the natural world. So where did that originate? And how did it inspire your commitment to sustainability in your creations?
Yeah, so I've always been attached to the natural world growing up. Like I was outside 24/7, camping, hiking, just lived out in the bush in northern Canada. And then as a teenager, going through the mental health struggles of being in your teens, I just found a real connection in nature. I would go out camping, whether it be by myself or with a mate, like every single weekend. And I just absolutely love the bush. Like, started doing photography and then traveling and all this sort of stuff. And it really helped me anytime I was struggling with mental health issues or anything, or just being out in nature or going for a swim, and you just instantly feel better. And I'm just like, why don't more people do this?
Yep.
It's just beautiful what fresh air and the trees and the ocean and everything can do for you.
Yeah,
So that
100%.
was sort of my love for nature went into the Get Outside name when I first started making the beanies. And then sustainability, obviously, I just want to keep the planet as beautiful as possible. And I know fashion is a really big problem in today's day and age. So by making this sort of wearable art, I make it like the highest quality you possibly can have. So you're going to have this hat for 20, 40 years, if you take care of it and really sort of highlighting the fact that you can buy more expensive products once instead of going through these fast fashion trends. And like even my hats, I've told people, because some people are really indecisive about the decorations and stuff, I'm like, you can bring it back if you're finding you're not wearing it, and I'll take the decorations off of it and I'll make something new for you, and it can come with you into that era of your life type thing. So just making it really slow fashion that's going to last you forever.
Yeah, and like fast fashion is a massive issue, right? It's people are thinking like quick, accessible, cheap
Mm.
options that are going to like suit their need in that moment.
Yeah.
I think like fast fashion is something I'm really passionate about. I try to be as ethical and sustainable as I can in terms of like
Yeah.
what I wear, what I put on my body.
Yeah.
Um, how, how did you like receive like when obviously your products are priced at a high thing because of the materials and the labor and everything like
Yeah.
that. Was there real backlash around that, or you were saying before that was like an internalized thing as well? But
Yeah, internalized, but you get comments no matter what, because there's people who, and no blame to them, are uneducated in like what high quality hats cost, the amount of time that what goes into them, and some people like at markets and stuff just see them and they think it's an akubra that's been decorated, and then I've put a extra few $100s on top of it or something, like, and people just go, oh my god, like. But as soon as I say, oh, they're entirely handmade, the materials, can cost upwards of $300 per hat. They take about 6 to 10 hours. Then people go, oh, and you just like kindly educate them, and then they take that on, and that's what goes. But obviously, you hear the comments all the time. And people go, oh my god,
yeah,
and especially in like the day and age we're in right now and everyone's struggling with money, it's really hard sometimes to justify the cost. But I just say it as like, oh, it's an investment. And obviously it's not for everyone. If you just want a regular hat, like you can get one at the op shop or Bunnings, or you can get your hats anywhere, but it is like a more of a art piece and an investment.
Yeah, for sure. And like it's a beautiful one at that. Like I
Yeah.
feel like when you put it in perspective, like 6 to 10 hours to make one piece, for instance,
Yeah.
we look at it like look at an hourly rate. Like look at the like minimum hourly rate. Like
For a plumber or yeah.
yeah, it's really not correlating. You know what I mean?
It's
So
like I had the shop that I've left now with Jessie, the jeweler, and she's making her pieces. I'm watching her make them over 3 days, and then she's getting like, I don't know, a couple $100 or something. And like a tradie's wage is sometimes $100 an hour. And she
exactly.
went to 4 years of trade school as well, like jewelry trade school. And it's just,
Yeah, it just doesn't correlate. And I think like people forget that, people forget that, okay, I've got this beautiful item in front of me, but like there is so much behind the scenes that has gone and so
mm,
much love and investment that has gone into this item to be as it is today.
yeah,
And people like undervalue the item when
yeah,
it's like, no, there was so much that actually went
yeah,
into this. Like you cannot just go, oh, but like it's a bit
yeah.
pricey over here. Like, of
Or if you
course.
had like a painter, like some paintings you could look at and they would be $1,200, and then they could be next to one, that's $200, and they're same size, same thing. It's just what you value different
Mhm.
items at as well. And yeah, it's
Yeah,
just an
100%.
education thing that will come with time once more people start making hats, and or it won't, but that's fine as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, and it's like everyone's on their own little journey at the end of the
Yeah.
day. How did you initially get your brand out there? Was it just word of mouth or was it because obviously you're quite active on social media. Was that a real like pioneer for the growth?
Yeah, definitely. Before that, though, I was just at the Myia markets every Saturday, which is pretty small, pretty average sized market. It was 10 minutes from my house, though, so that really helped me just get into like the local community. And then I saw people on Instagram, like artists and stuff, doing really well off of reels. I was like, right. So I guess I have to be a
Yeah.
influencer, social media manager now as well, and gave TikTok a go. And I actually did really good on one TikTok video, and then ever since then, it's kind of just been like going up and up and up. And honestly, like that's probably where I make most of the orders with the least amount of effort. Like instead of sitting at a market that cost me $400 to go to, and I'm sitting there for 12 hours driving to and from. I post one video and you get 10 orders from it. So,
Yeah, wow.
unfortunately, social media is where it's at the moment.
100%. So, would you really like if someone came to you and they were like, "Hey, like what like do I do it? Like what would you just be like, yeah, like you'd be silly not to or what would your like reactions be to that sort of
Like
thing?
to become a hat maker.
Or just like even like pioneering their brand on social media.
Yeah, oh, I'd be like definitely, and you have to start it. You have to start it with a very like what would you call it? A very like niche idea in mind. So whatever you're doing, you have to be different. Like there's heaps of people that make hats, there's heaps of people that make jewelry. Like you need to find that niche that you're marketing to and stick to that. And you have to be so reliable on there. It's a lot of work, but if you do it, you can do it. You can do it well. Yeah.
Mm. So how do you actively connect with your customers? Is it just like you posting content and then are you replying to comments? Like
Yeah, I
is what does
try
that
and
look like to you?
reply to everything, reply to all my messages, reply to my comments. I'm sure, I'm not, but hopeful maybe one day it'll get to a point where I can't reply to everyone. That would be
Yes, that's the
great.
dream.
No, at the moment I try and be so personable. And when people order hats as well, we have a video chat consult, so I get to know the person, and it's not just like texting through a screen because I hate that. And
Yeah.
and I can have like look at the person, see what their sort of vibe is, and we can have a chat and get to know each other a bit. So it's a bit more personable. And yeah, sending out emails sometimes on my website, which I'm not very good at, but try to be.
Yep.
There's so many different.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, there's so many different like options out there, and it's like staying on top of it all can be a lot, and it can be stressful. And um, do you find that you have a good balance of that, or do you like struggle trying to manage it all?
Yeah, I had a good balance when I was in the shop because I'd get ready to go to work and then I'd be at the shop and I'd have my hours and that. I used to be really bad at it when I first worked from home doing it because I was just doing it 24/7. Um, my partner at the time, he would come downstairs and I would be like in my house coat, like in the
Yeah.
dungeon, like 9:30 in the 9:30 at night. He's like, "What are you doing?" But now I'm working from home again, and I'm just trying to keep in that routine of okay, these are my work hours. Else you end up burning yourself out and doing it all the time. You lose your passion for it, so you really have to like dedicate working hours for it, and then you're also getting more done. You're not like procrastinating and being very airy fairy about it. Well, that's how I work at least, but
Yes.
yeah.
Well, like work life balance is really important. How do you feel like you manage that? Do you manage that well, or do you feel like you kind of fall in the trap of work, work, work?
Yeah,
Um,
definitely at the moment because it's just trying to. It's like make or break.
mm,
Gotta put in the hours still. Quit my job so I could do this full time, and so it's full time. Like I'm doing markets Saturday and Sundays most of the time, and then making hats all throughout the week. Um, but you have to put in some hard times to hopefully get it come through at the end. But we'll see. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's yeah, like I said before, it's all a journey, and we're all on this journey, um, and
And
that's the
even though I
thing.
work. It's something I love as well. So we'll see.
Yeah, yeah, and it's just about like I guess finding finding the balance. But I feel like aren't we all trying to find the balance at the end of the day?
Yeah, exactly. And at least I don't have to go work and do something I'm not passionate about. And
Yeah. Yeah, it's not like you're working a 9 to 5 with just like you're just dragging your dragging your arms and legs and you're like, no way, like you're actually
it's my
creating
worst
things.
nightmare.
Yeah, literally.
Having
Um
to doing the hats and then if thinking about having to go back to a job, I'm just like, oh no, like working at the hospital is what I was doing before, just doing admin. I was inside on a computer, like,
mhm.
and I'm just like, I can't do that again. So
Yeah, I mean, particularly considering like what your brand's all about, like that surprised me that you managed to get an admin job.
yeah, never
Yeah,
again.
it's the joys. What guidance would you offer to someone that's considering starting a small business in a niche area?
I'd probably. So I've got my notes here.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, just putting like 100% into what you're doing. If you're kind of going, oh yeah, I might do that, it's probably not going to work. Like you have
Yeah.
to be like, I want this. I've seen a lot of people like have great ideas, but then sort of half-ass, part of my language, half-ass it, and then it's just not going to get you anywhere. Like this needs to be like your baby. You need to be onto it and doing everything you can. And it's a lot of work to be a small business owner, especially if it's in the artistic realm. It's a whole other ball game, you know. So you just have to give it 100%, find a passion, deep love for it, and just be unstoppable. People will notice that as well, and then that's how you get that support and people wanting to buy or whatever it is to support you. If you have this passion and love and this like glowing aura about it, people will see that, you know, and support you.
Yeah. Do you wonder whether you like if you hadn't ever transitioned into a small business, like if this was still just like a hobby, if this was just like do you think that your like the way that you would make the hats would be different? Do you think like your perception on like the how the community would be different? Like what would it be if it was just a hobby still?
I sort of even feel like it still is a hobby in a
Mm.
way. It doesn't really feel that job like yet.
Yeah.
But if I was only doing, and the thing is, I probably would never do that because I'm not someone that does things like half stop. I'm just like
Mhm.
full go ahead and full steam ahead, and so I can't even imagine because it's just not what my personality is.
No. But I also love that. Like, I love the fact that you kind of are just like, yeah, but it's still like a hobby. Like, it's not like that love or that like fire for it has like died down just because
Yeah,
you've gone into a small business and you're actually marketing yourself. Um, because like I feel like that's something that you can see time and time again where it's like you lose the passion for it. How do you feel like, I mean, you kind of mentioned it. How do you feel like you keep that passion alive?
um, definitely. Like as we talked about, sort of keeping a balance in some ways, and like my way of doing that is instead of just sitting there making hats all day, I'll like split it up with okay, I have to do like some website work or I have to have like some consults and kind of split it up in your day, have those breaks, have creative pauses where I'm not making hats for a week or so that I get back into the workshop and I'm like, oh, I'm excited to make
Yeah.
something. And yeah, just, yeah, definitely taking breaks if you, yeah, it's definitely a balance between giving it your all and then also pulling back a bit so that you're keeping your like mental health in check and your love for it in check.
Mm.
It's also
Yeah.
something everyone has to work out on their own though, because there's people with everyone works differently, and
Yeah. No, I think that's beautiful. What do you love most about being a small business owner? I feel like you have mentioned it already, but you just tell us what do you love most?
I love the like at the markets on the weekend. It's just so nice. People come in and they're like, "Oh my god," and they just shower you with compliments. No, but they
Yeah.
people are really stoked and they just think it's amazing, and you're creating joy in people's lives by this thing that you're making. And when people get their new hats and they're so stoked, and that's really beautiful. Part of just being an artist, I guess. And also more like small business side, it's pretty nice like being able to create your own schedule, having that balance in life. Like if my partner wants to go away for the weekend or something and I need to take Monday off, I can, and then I work extra hard on Friday. Like
Yeah.
that's the dream, really, like to work for yourself and be in charge of your own hours and what you're putting in. You don't feel really well, then you do admin work instead, and you just change your day around, and that's so good. It's what everyone wants, really, is not to be um, responsible to someone else, and
Mm,
but that's where you need to have like good work ethic and have that
yes.
go, because if you get slack all week, then there's going to be a problem, obviously.
100%. You've got to have the drive to
Yeah,
do it. Like you can't just be like, "Oh, I'm going to do this," and then it's all just going to work out because like it's not. Like if you don't have the drive and you don't have the ambition to do the stuff, like
yeah,
yeah,
not
it's
happening.
just not going to work out for you.
Yeah.
And lastly, what's next for Get Outside Co? Can you share future ambitions and goals moving forward?
I'm not really sure at the moment. I'm keeping like my dreams were kind of focused on doing. I wanted to get sort of like a hatmobile vehicle, like a bigger van that I could make
I
hats
agree.
in and be traveling and stuff. But I think the way of the world right now and the way how markets have really slowed down, I don't think that's very practical for the time being. I think it is more just focusing on creating at home and going to the odd markets and focusing on the social media sides of things. But yeah, I'd love to either do travel with it one day and be able to do that, um, or take take it to Canada, like back home for the summers or something, be able to do 6 months at a time in each country. Like something like that would just be the dream, or having a shop again one day.
Mm,
Amazing. So they're all
yeah.
just, and then whatever I kind of get steered into, I'll just jump on. It was the same with the shop. Like I wasn't really super keen on having a shop, but one popped up for super cheap down the coast of Myia, and they were like 6 months lease, and I was like, all right, let's do it. And so the 6 months ran out, and I was like, okay, I'm ready to move on. I'm going to go up the coast and move up there for a bit. And then Jessie is keeping the shop down there still, and so she's loving it. And a few of my stuff's still in there, but yeah, it's just all opportunities. And when they open up, I'll jump on them. And
Yeah. And it's just being willing and open to, I guess, jumping on those things. Because I think it can be so easy to just get content and just go through the motions. But kind of what we were saying before in terms of just like having like the passion and just like the drive to see your business thrive and succeed.
mm,
One of that is just like jumping on board with any crazy ideas or any just like fun expeditions. And I feel like you're in such a good position to do that. And I mean, your entire brand is just like that adventurous spirit, you know?
yeah,
And I feel like that's like everything that you're saying as future ambitions is just like totally suits your brand.
yeah.
Like it's like
Yeah,
to a
if you're
T.
not like slightly anxious, you're probably not growing. Like
Yeah.
you need to have that little bit of excitement going on.
Mm, yeah, because otherwise you just
Yeah, plateau. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Well, that is all the questions I have. Is there anything else you want to share in terms of like advice or anything like that?
Yeah, just give it your all. If you want to do something and you love something, go on.
Yeah, I love it.
What do you
I
do it?
mean, yeah, exactly. Um, amazing. Well, I'm just gonna do a fun little outro because it's just always the most awkward bit, so I like to bring it amazing. Well, thank you for joining episode 7 of
Thank
the
you.
Aussie podcast, Talk Small Business to Me. Just want to thank Myia again for joining us, and it was fun. It was a blast.
Thanks so
Um,
much. So,
and honestly, like as much as I was like, I am not a hatter. You make me want to be a hatter, but I just don't think I've got the eye. Yeah, honestly, just give her a follow. It's like the coolest thing ever. But yes, we'll see you next episode. See you
thank
later.
you. See ya.